Our first item up today is Eric Iverson is going to give a update on the Commons project on behalf of the Lithia Corporation.
I have my water there. I left it there when I get. Thank you. Glenda, can I get your assistance? Technology keeps moving forward. Eric Iverson with Lithia Motors, 360 East Jackson, Medford, Oregon. I've got some different drawings to show you today, and I'm sure if you've driven down Riverside Avenue in the past couple of weeks, you've noticed construction keeps moving forward, and we are progressing on construction of the new Lithia Motors headquarters building. But that's not really all that we're moving forward with. We've completed a bunch of pretty important steps over the past couple months. The building and the park blocks has gone through the Landmarks and Historic Preservation Commission with approval. We have gone through the Site Plan and Architectural Commission with approval. We've hired Adroit Construction here locally, and we are obviously under construction, as I said, if you drove down Riverside Avenue. What you see there is not actually the entire extent of the building. That is the shear wall core. I'm sure Mr. Chris Rising could probably give a better description of it than I could. But the columns and the beams and everything will extend out from that. What you're seeing there is primarily the core of the building, the elevators, the bathrooms, the storage area. But construction is proceeding very swiftly. We're working on the second floor of that core right now. Concrete will be poured next week. And then by the end of next week, you'll see the third floor going up. So it's taking shape rather quickly. In the process of getting there, we had a few stumbles, a couple hurdles. One of those is we went through an archaeological review at the request of the Landmarks and Historic Preservation Commission. We hired an archaeological firm out of Eugene, Oregon, and we did discover what we believe to be one of the original wells from one of the original homesteads here in Medford. And didn't find too much in that well outside of ink bottles, that sort of what they would consider trash, which I think probably now we consider treasure. But that was the type of stuff that we found. But it did slow things down a little bit, a couple extra hurdles. We did find some different debris behind the old Medford High School, as that was the building that fronted on Bartlett Street. And I'm sure we'll find a lot more of that as we move towards construction of the park blocks. But again, right now we're just under construction on the headquarters building. And then as with any downtown project, whether public or private, of course, we found a couple underground storage tanks. Only two to date. So we found those, and including one of those, which was actually about 1 inch underneath the old building. Didn't worry about burying it too much, just kind of left it there. And but both of those have been taken out and completely remediated. We're working with Oregon State DEQ to get that done, and that's going smoothly. Again, just a little couple hiccups to get things going, and we're kind of now letting the construction workers do their job. They have their great incentives to get it done as fast as they can, and we're moving along great. Parks is talking about the whole overall commons. Brian Shotun with Parks Recreation is working on the Liberty Park plans as far as what we're doing over on that side, and there's a couple public meetings coming up. I believe the next one is in July. And just gather some additional input, and that's part of the overall Commons DDA agreement, and we're proceeding with that as we should. Next step coming up, you see in front of you on the screen is the park blocks, and that is the public improvement portion of the project. That is what has been funded through the DDA by the Medford Urban Renewal Agency, with Lithia acting as the construction manager. Plans on that are probably at 95% completion, and much to the happiness of local contractors, that will be going out to bid at the end of July, beginning of August. And I think we have favorable bidding conditions right now, and should definitely do our best to get the most bang for our buck in construction of those park blocks. The way that those park blocks are going to be constructed is Park Block 1, which you see on your plan, has most of the trees on it in the plaza. That will get constructed and completed at the same time as the Lithia headquarters building. So that will be scheduled, what you see there, to be done by summer of next year, summer of 2012. Same thing with everything on 5th Street, going from Riverside down past Bartlett Street. And then the section of Park Block 2 will happen a year or two later. But again, we're getting stuff out to bid here in the next couple months for all of the park blocks, for the utilities, for the streets, for really all of the above. Other than that, just happy to answer any questions. And if you're ever curious what's going on down there, we're always happy to come talk with you.
Thank you, Eric. Questions for Mr. Iverson? Yes, Mr. Michaels.
I know this has gone through all the various committees, but I had to say, and this is, I saw the drawings of the building when at the Art and Bloom, and I was rather dismayed that it didn't have any kind of historical connection with Medford. It reminded me of the Sandcrawler from Star Wars or something, the way it was shaped. And why couldn't things go to match a little more of the architecture we already had in the area?
It's a tricky one. I do have a shot of the building.
Yes, I expect a little tracks down below there.
It's a tricky one. Let's see. Let's turn down the lamp. How about that? Brightness. There we go. Oh, there's a delayed reaction on this.
Must be nighttime.
It's turning into dusk. It's always a challenge with buildings, not to imitate yet be respectful of the surrounding buildings. It also comes down to opinion. I think two of the ways that this building accomplishes that is through it being a 4-story building, through the use of familiar materials, which on the first floor there will be granite for the first 3-4 feet, similar, a base, a middle, and a top. And we did discuss this with the Historic Commission at great length. And the fact that most of the first floor, there's storefronts, similar to older historic buildings. And you get that connection. But I think the last thing we want is for the building to actually imitate a building from 100 years ago. The actual National Historic Preservation Guidelines recommend for you not to imitate. It specifically says don't imitate, don't pretend that you're building a building as if it was 1920 or 1930. Build a building as if it's 2000 and make it blend to the best of your ability. And, I think that's what we have here. We have a building that will have retail on the first floor, offices up on the second, third, and fourth floor.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr. Dow.
Eric, originally when it was going to be a taller, larger building, more square footage, there was going to be space available for commercial activities not associated with Lithia. Is there going to be any space available for?
There is on the first floor. The building is still 70,000 square feet, approximately. On the first floor, there's probably about 15,000 square feet of retail space that we are actively looking for retail tenants, whether it be a coffee shop, restaurant, or just other retail. So that'll be leased space.
Please.
Retail only, you're not just doing other commercial?
Just retail only in this building. The one thing that we always have to keep in mind is that this project, the Lithia headquarters building, does not equal the Commons. It is the first building. It is a cornerstone in the Commons. Personally, I anticipate 3 or 4 buildings following this one, whether some of them may be smaller, some of them may be bigger, in the next 5 years. There's more. There's more redevelopment sites here, and those will bring in additional tenants. Again, with the same party of having first floor retail with office and other commercial up above that.
Other comments or questions for Mr. Iverson? Thanks, Eric.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Dow.
A few months ago, Council directed staff to secure the services of a survey firm in order to assess attitudes and values and perhaps even feelings among the citizens and to report back those results or those findings prior to the council making any decisions in terms of police, fire, and Parks Recreation Department new facilities being authorized to be placed on a ballot question sometime next year, May or November. So staff sent out an RFP. We have scored the responses to the request for proposals, and we will be sending a letter of intent to a firm by the name of CDRI, which is headquartered in Portland. Is that correct, Bill?
I think so. I believe that's what they are.
And that will happen in the next little while. We hope to have a contract in front of the council for approval 2 weeks from today on the 21st at your next meeting. So I wanted to give that information to you. Another item is on certain streets in town, you've seen a chip and seal street maintenance project over the last week or two. That's called Cape Seal, and the reason why is because there's a thin layer of asphalt that goes over what is now there, and that's the Cape. And so it won't be left in the condition it is now, even though that's an improved surface to drive on. It will be covered and sealed with a thin layer of asphalt. This process is our fourth way of maintaining streets. It costs about 40% as much as the most expensive way, which is an overlay. Lasts about 80% as long, so we're going to save a lot of money in those blocks and those areas where a Cape Seal is the appropriate street maintenance. So I congratulate Corey Krebin for coming on board and continually looking for the lowest life cycle cost method of maintaining and providing for the taxpayer-supported utility systems that this city has. He's done a very good job with that. And last, another public works project, but I didn't know if anyone had noticed it. 2 days ago, July 5th, the new bridge over North Phoenix Road at Larson Creek began construction. I don't know what the timetable is, but it won't be next week, but sometime in the next few months. So that's going to be wider, both on the surface as well as perhaps under the creek in terms of